Hey guys, it's Hannah Hart's Book 6, and I'm going to do my middle grade March wrap-up. Hi guys, it's been a minute. It's been a hot minute. So, hi, I'm Hannah. It's the most stiff hi I've ever given. Hi, I'm Hannah, and I made booktube videos, and then I stopped because my life got super crazy. So first we're gonna do an update called Where the Heck Have I Been? So where the heck have I been? I just asked that question. But anyway, I have been in college, as most of you know. If you don't know, I am in college to become a teacher, and this is my last semester, and as of now I've passed my project that I was supposed to finish this semester, and also I passed all my tests to become a teacher in my state. So that's really awesome. But I think the last time I saw you guys, I was in my second to last semester of college, and that was a terrible time to start a booktube channel. I was able to do videos over the summer, but I have not made a video probably since August of 18. So that's crazy, and I totally meant to make booktube videos and I just kind of didn't. So yeah, I also lost 40 pounds, so that's a thing too. So if you notice that my face is a little less full, homegirl lost weight. So yeah, if you want a video on that, I probably could do it, but like I didn't lose weight like by reading, you know what I mean? But anyway, so I'm gonna get into my middle grade March wrap up. I'm gonna do it on my computer. I have Facebook open right now, so we're gonna open up to Goodreads, because no matter how much of a good memory I have, can't remember the books that I have. And also I'm a terrible booktuber because I don't have any of these books with me. You know what's also funny is that I haven't read a lot of books in 2019. I've only read 9 as of today, one being a graphic novel, and as of this time last year I'd read 26 books, so feeling like the most wonderful reader right now. So the first book that I read this month was Front Desk by Kelly Yang. If you've seen the cover of the book, I don't have fancy editing software, so I can't be like, this is what the book looks like. And I also don't have the book, so again, terrible booktuber. But Front Desk by Kelly Yang, it has a very cartoonish looking cover, and it will really throw you off because you'll think that this book is going to be about this girl who like works in a motel with her family, like just so cute, so wholesome, and it's not. And it's basically about this little girl named Mia Tang, and her 2 parents are immigrants from China, and they live in California. I think it's Southern California. I don't know California geography, but basically they're in California, and her parents are struggling to make money because America is not as free as they thought it would be when they came here. And so they get into this contract where they are now the managers of this motel, and basically they're under this illusion that they're going to be making a lot of money, and it turns out that the owner of the motel is a really terrible man and knows that these people, that Mia's parents essentially can't find a better job because they're immigrants. And it's just this story of Mia and the injustices of being an immigrant in the early 90s, and realizing that America is really not a free place. And those of us who were lucky to have been born here don't even understand the complexities that her family had to go through. And basically Mia works at the front desk, and she goes through a lot of terrible things, and she witnesses a lot of prejudice toward the weeklies, which are the people who live at the motel weekly, and just learning about that the world is really an unfair place, and that the America that she thought is not really the America that they came to. And the crazy thing about the book is that it's loosely based on the author Kelly Yang's experiences, because her parents worked in motels and she worked in motels, and some of the things that happened in the story to Mia actually happened in real life. And one of the side parts of the plot is that Mia really wants to be this writer, but her mom says that she's Asian, so she has to be good at math, and she just struggles with this. And so she writes letters throughout the book for various situations, and you can see her writing get better and how she progresses throughout the book. She writes letters for the weeklies and basically forms these relationships with these weeklies, and it's just a beautiful story. I probably explained it kind of bad, but just don't look at the cover. It's kind of one of those, like, don't judge a book by its cover, but like the opposite. Like, don't think because the cover cartoonish and cute that will be the story that's inside, because it's not. So I gave that book 5 stars, and it was so good. The next book I read, I actually listened to on audio, and I listened to it on Scribd. I got a free 30-day trial. I don't have a code for Scribd. I'm not sponsored because I haven't made booktube videos in 6 months, so nobody's gonna sponsor me. But anyway, I listened to The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane by Kate T. Camillo. The audiobook is 1 hour and 55 minutes long, so it's totally perfect for what I was looking for, and also totally perfect if you're looking for an audiobook where you don't have to listen for a long time. That would be a good one. So, The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane is a story about a China doll rabbit who is owned by Abilene Tulane, and she loves him so much, and he's very self-centered. Her family goes on this cruise and he gets thrown overboard, and the story travels through many years of him going through different owners, getting different names, and just learning how to love. Because at the beginning of the story, Abilene's grandma, Pellegrina, she's Italian, she tells this story about this princess who never learned to love. She only loved herself, and so she had a tragic end. And Edward Tulane learns how to love, and it's such a beautiful story. I cried at the end, but I cry at everything, so, but it's seriously, it really was sad. And I'm just driving at 8 p.m. at night. It's and it was so beautiful. I promise, it's really beautiful. The next book that I read was Wondersmith, The Calling of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. I was really excited to read Wondersmith because I'd heard lovely things about it, and I started reading it in January, and I read about 200 pages, and I stopped reading it because I was, I don't know, I just wasn't having a lot of time to read, and every time I sat down to read, I felt guilty because I wasn't doing my project that was really huge that I had to work on. So I kind of essentially just stopped reading, and I didn't read anything in February. And I finally picked it up in March because I was going to return it to the library because I was just like, there's no way I'm going to finish this. And I don't even know if I remember anything. But Katie from Life Between Words had read it and was talking about it on one of the middle grade March live shows. And I was like, okay, let me try to read the next couple chapters. And I read the next couple chapters, and I absolutely loved them. And basically, I can't tell you much about this story. I can tell you about the first book, Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow. Basically, Morgan Crow is a cursed child. She was born on Eventide, and everything is blamed on her. And on her 13th birthday, she is supposed to die. And so her birthday comes around, and she's saved by Jupiter North, who becomes her mentor, so to speak, and whisks her off to Nevermore. She lives in the Wintersea Republic. Jupiter North takes her to this Hotel Decalion where he works. And so anyway, she goes through these trials to get into the Wondrous Society. In this book, spoiler alert, she gets into the Wondrous Society, and basically these people go missing, and it goes from there. So I can't really explain it because it's a sequel, but I will say that I gave Wondersmith 4 stars. I freaking loved it. And one thing that I loved about Wondersmith is that there are 2 essential plot lines. There's one where there's this like blackmailing situation that's happening, and one where there's this like auction kind of thing. And I'm gonna say auction because if you've read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about. And at the beginning, because I read it in half chunks, so I read the first half in January and the second half in March. So in the first half, you think that the blackmailing is the main plot. And then you get to the auction in the second half, and it's kind of funny because the 2 plots switch, and you find out throughout the book that one of them is not as important as you thought. And then also there are 2 characters who switch roles, because there's this one person who has been awful to her the entire book, and he turns out to save her life in the end, whereas this other person was kind to her this whole time and ends up betraying her. And there was this line that Jupiter North says that some people are brave bullies and some people are friendly cowards. And I just thought it was a beautiful thing, because they're having this conversation about how she's not she's like, well, how could this person be so wonderful and this person be such an awful person? But then they go and do these things that one give them merit, and then in the other make them a terrible person. And Jupiter is telling her that one does not take away the other. So just because this person betrayed her in the end doesn't discount the fact that he was kind to her. Again, with the other storyline, it was such an interesting complex, and I feel like Nevermore and Wondersmith get compared to Harry Potter a lot, and I think Jessica Townsend's way of storytelling really is the reason that they get connected, because there's the whimsy of like magical school and society and whatnot, but also the complexities of like what really makes a good character, because there are a lot of characters that you might see them as black, but there is so much gray, and I really liked that. And it's interesting how it's a middle grade story, but there's such complexities, and I just really liked that. And 4 stars for that one. The next one I read was Flora and Ulysses, The Illuminated Adventures by Kate DiCamillo. So it was my second Kate DiCamillo of the month, and I will say that first of all, it's a Newbery Medal. It won in 2014, and I have this challenge going that I'm kind of failing at. I've only read 11 out of like 98 Newbery Medal winners, but it was my 11th one, and I don't want to say have to read because I really want to read them, but I was going to have to read it at some point, so I just figured might as well. And honestly, this story was I was a little underwhelmed. I gave the story 3 stars, but I don't know. I feel like it's more of a 2.5, because I just don't really get why it won the Newbery at all. I don't think there's much literary merit. Basically, the story, just to give a synopsis, there's this girl named Flora Belle Buckman, and she's kind of weird, and she's a self-described cynic, and she reads these comics called Incandesto. There's a subtitle, I can't remember what it's called. And basically, in the first chapter, she witnesses this squirrel being sucked up by a vacuum, and she goes over and gets the squirrel out of the vacuum cleaner, and basically because the squirrel was sucked up into a vacuum, it got superpowers, and the squirrel ends up being able to type and fly, and the story just kind of goes from there. But it's a quirky little book. I didn't really get it that much. I was like, okay. And then her dad is always like, George Buckman, how do you do? Like, there were two catchphrases that kept repeating. Like one of them was Holy Bagumba and then Holy Unanticipated Occurrences. And it was just like, it was the weirdest book ever. So yeah, I think I'd probably give it a solid 2.5 right down the middle. It was weird. And I don't think I would ever read it again. And then we have Sweep, the story of A Girl and Her Monster by Jonathan Auxier. And this book was so beautiful. So beautiful. It was the group book for middle grade March. We had a live show all about it. It was on Instagram, so I don't think you can view it anymore. But it was so beautiful. I was not going to read it, and then I was like, okay, I want to participate in the live show. So if I participate in the live show, I'm either not going to read it because I'm going to get spoiled, or I'm going to be confused. So I decided to read it, and it was beautiful, guys. I cried by the end of it. It was the most beautiful story. But to give you a synopsis, I don't think I could do it justice. So I'm just going to read you the Goodreads synopsis. I know that's kind of boring. But it says, for nearly a century, Victorian London relied on climbing boys, orphans owned by chimney sweeps, to clean flues and protect homes from fire. The work was hard, thankless, and brutally dangerous. 11-year-old Nan Sparrow is quite possibly the best climber who ever lived. And a girl. With her wits and will, she's managed to beat the deadly odds time and time again. But when Nan gets stuck in a deadly chimney fire, she fears her time has come. Instead, she wakes to find herself in an abandoned attic, and she is not alone. Huddled in the corner is a mysterious creature, a golem, made from ash and coal. This is the creature that saved her from the fire. Sweep is the story of a girl and her monster. Together, these two outcasts carve out a life together, saving one another in the process. And, oh my gosh, I did not think that a story about a chimney sweep and a golem would be so beautiful and touching, but it really was. And there are two different ways the story is told. One is through the girl Nan's dreams. Nan used to be around this man called the Sweep, and he was wonderful. They sang together, they cleaned chimneys together, and they just lived this wonderful life together. But all of a sudden, 5 years ago, he disappeared. And then we get to present day, and it talks about Nan and her life as a chimney sweep. And it's just so beautiful. I don't know how else to describe it, and I don't know how to describe it without ruining it. So I just want you to read this book. The writing is amazing, and there were so many quotes. This is one book that I read this month that I was like, I need to buy my own copy so I can just highlight the crap out of it, because there were so many good lines, and I just cannot even tell you how good it was. So Sweep, the story of a girl and her monster by Jonathan Auxier was great, and I don't even know how to say it without just like raving about it. And last book I read, I actually do have a copy of it with me, and it's Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Also, am I the only one that did not realize that E.B. White was a man? Yeah, I've lived my whole life thinking he was a woman. But anyway, Charlotte's Web. Okay, so quick little story about this book. I had never read this book, actually. I know that's a continuing theme on my channel. So, never got to Charlotte's Web, and I actually read it to my student teaching class. We will actually finish reading the book on Monday. But, I don't know how I had never read this book. I remember watching the movie because the movie came out in 2006, and I was about 10 years old when that movie came out. So, I remember really liking the movie. But this story, if you don't know, is about Fern, who saves this renty pig from being killed because he's a runt, and she names him Wilbur, and she bottle feeds him, and then when he's old enough, they sell him for $7 to her relative Zuckerman, who lives like across the street or across the way, and has a farm full of animals. And Wilbur's a spring pig, so by Christmas time he is supposed to be slaughtered and eaten for ham dinner on Christmas. And Wilbur is really scared about that, but he befriends a spider who has her web in the corner of the barn near where Wilbur's pen is, and they develop this beautiful friendship, and Charlotte just devises a plan to save his life. And this story was beautiful, and it was fun reading it with the third graders because some of them were like, some of their reactions were hilarious. One of my kids, just every time I read the lines about the goose, was just, they were cracking up. Or when I read about Avery, Fern's brother, who was just such a pest. I mean, it was hilarious just what them rolling, or when the egg broke and there's a rotten smell, and they just had such like a great reaction. But then there was one kid who was like, "Mrs. Curtis, this book is really boring." And I was like, okay, you're entitled to feel that way. Or there was one part where I was reading it. So it's this part right here, and it says, "Wilbur blushed, but I'm not terrific, Charlotte. I'm just about average for a pig." "You're terrific as far as I'm concerned," replied Charlotte sweetly, "and that's what counts. You're my best friend, and I think you're sensational." And because it's the end of a chapter, and I just clutched my heart, and I was like, guys, isn't that so beautiful? And they were like, nah. And I just told him, I was like, you guys are a bunch of heartless third graders. And it was funny because this one kid goes, "Not as heartless as Templeton." And I said, yes, not as heartless as Templeton, but heartless nonetheless. So it was a really fun reading experience. And I mean, some of the kids liked it and some of the kids didn't. I probably would give this book about 3.5 stars. It wasn't my favorite book in the whole world, but it was really fun reading it with them because they just, I mean, it's the first time I'd ever really like read aloud a book to a class, and it was just fun to have conversations about the book and what they were thinking and how they were thinking about different characters and what they gained from the story as well. So it was a fun experience reading it, and I bought my own copy, so I will have this for my class, and I might read it in the future with my class, who knows. But yes, that is the last middle grade book I read. But the last graphic novel that I read this month was Lumberjanes Volume 6, Sink or Swim. And I got this on Hoopla because, did you know that Hoopla has all of the Lumberjanes volumes? Because I didn't know that. But yeah, I really like Lumberjanes. I always loved the Lumberjanes ladies, the hardcore lady types as they're called. But the stories are always so wacky, and there was more bear women in this, more multi-dimensions, more selkies, and you know, Seafaring Karen who turned into a wolf. So there's never normalcy in the Lumberjanes volumes. It's always wacky and crazy, and I loved it. I love the continuation of Molly and Mal's relationship. It's so beautiful. Ripley continues to amaze me because Ripley is always such a hot mess, but she ends up like saving the day most of the time, and she always gets their badges. And I was so glad that at the end of this they got their like tie the knot badge or whatever, and it was the best. Also, there's a lot less Jen in this volume, and we all know how much I love Jen. But anyway, that's the end of my March wrap up. It was good talking to you guys. Hope you liked seeing my face. If you want to see more of my face, give the video a thumbs up because it shows my videos to other people and will promote me to make more, because I promise that I will make more time for YouTube. I promise. I really promise, okay? Follow my Instagram, Hannah Hearts Book 6. I post on there a lot more than my YouTube channel, obviously. And then, yeah, follow me on Goodreads, Hannah Curtis, just my full name. And yeah, that's about it for me. Bye, guys.